We are live. 3i Atlas. Just getting more exciting. Hey, everybody. I'm Rex Bear. How the heck are you? Greg Allison's with us. This guy's awesome. If you haven't heard of him before, just type in Greg Allison and Halo, and you'll get an incredible bio of Greg. So he has been in the aerospace industry now for decades. He's been a contractor at NASA. He's also worked with many defense contracts, Army, aerospace stuff. And we previously did a podcast just a few weeks ago discussing 3i Atlas. And it appears that as it went around the sun, it changed course just enough to be in, I guess you could kind of call it the Goldilocks zone of gravity. If you're going to release some type of probe, or if you're going to have some type of... Greg, can you explain this better for me, man? I think you do a better job explaining it.
Absolutely.
And thank you, man. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Rex, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
There is a region in space where Jupiter predominates the gravity over the sun. And it's really a circle around Jupiter. And it's defined in partially by location of at least one of the Lagrange points, the Lagrange point between the sun and Jupiter. And so there's that would be the L1 point. So there's the French mathematician Lagrange back in the 1700s worked out two-body gravitational fields and found there were 5 points in these gravitational fields where where you can park an object and it just basically stay without needing much station keeping. And the most stable ones are L4 and L5. You'd actually have to escape from L4 and L5. L1, L2, and L3 are very interesting. L1 is the point between the star, the sun, and or in case Earth Moon to be the Earth and the Moon. In this case, we're talking the sun and Jupiter. And it's going to be closer to Jupiter because the sun's a lot bigger, has more gravity. And so I had the numbers here somewhere. You might can put them up in my obvious paper, how long this is. It's called the Hill distance because anything within that diameter, there you are. So the point between is L1. And L1, if you drew a circle around L1, that's really in L2, that's really your Hill distance. I don't know what that red circle is. I guess that's just showing something orbiting another body. But the Hill distance is anything between L1 and L2. That's just 2 points that define two areas on a big sphere that would be around it. Now, L4 and L5 are the most stable Lagrange points. They lead and trail the orbiting body by 60 degrees. So 60 degrees to the left ahead of the orbiting body would be L4. To the other side would be L5. For those that don't know, I've started 3 chapters of an organization called the L5 Society, whose proposition, the whole goal of the society was to disband. Now, who ever joined a society that formed for the purpose of disbanding? But the idea was to disband in a space colony on L5. So it had a mission to kind of work at disband. It merged with the National Space Institute to form the National Space Society, which I've been was an officer in for quite a long time. In fact, I was the head officer at one time in the the National Space Society. But I did start 3 chapters in the L5 era. So it was a chapter in North Carolina, one in Alaska, North Star L5 Society, and the Huntsville, Alabama L5 Society, which is still an ongoing chapter today. Anyway, so all that said, that Hill distance is the area where Jupiter's gravity takes over. And 3i Atlas was going to miss it. It was just going to go to the outside. So what would happen if you were to drop off? 3i Atlas has got so much momentum, unless it really threw a major braking maneuver and decelerated like crazily, it's not going to go into orbit around Jupiter. It's going to just keep going. But it could disembark probes that could go to Jupiter within that Hill distance. That would be the easiest place to do it. And the fact that 3i Atlas seems to have accelerated to have made up where it could go into the Hill zone of Jupiter is highly interesting. Comets typically will exhibit something called non-gravitational acceleration, because they have jets when they heat up, and those jets put out gas. It's not jets like a jet engine, guys, just to let you know. They throw out gas, and for every action, there's an opposite but equal reaction. So when you're kicking out the gas, it means you're going to have thrust in the opposite direction from which direction the gas kicked out. So it's interesting that, you know, a comet will typically have two tails, one trailing it in a velocity vector, and one being put off by the solar wind because it's charged. And so it would be a charged particle ion tail going in a little bit different direction. But 3I Atlas has a number of tails. And these tails have been oriented just right to give it the kind of acceleration to pick up its velocity just enough to make it within the hill distance of the sun. That's interesting. What really fascinated me the most about those tails, though, is that all objects in space tumble. They rotate, they tumble. We don't know of anything other than a guided missile or spacecraft that don't tumble. I mean, they just go tumbling, 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 tumbling. And pardon me. So the oddball thing is there are, like, you know, two main jets or anti-tails that are facing the sun. If you look, there's really like three. Now you could say, okay, well, where the object faces the sun, it's getting heated there, and so something would spurt out. But if it's tumbling, how is it they spurt out in the same direction? Okay, given that, it might be that you get one spot as the object moves around, getting heated, and then it would puff out stuff, you know, and when it hits pockets of ice or something else, that it would spurt out at that point when that one spot facing the sun. So I got a light here somewhere. I can illustrate this with. Here's something. Maybe it's work. So, you know, say this is the sun and this is your comet, and you're getting lit on one side. It could be that one side where it's being lit would throw out jets while it's being lit there. But that should be basically like one point. What we're seeing, though, is very distinct, highly collimated tails that are going at a long distance from the comet, not at just one point, like several points. They do serve all to accelerate it away from the sun, interestingly, but they're not just one point. Another thing, as a comet rotates, it should, what did I do my asteroid thing here, comet? I just set it down. I don't know where to put it. I got a little moon here. That's what works. It should, as it rotates, this is my little moon globe. It should be, those tails really ought to kind of twist around or be smeared out. Even if you're just facing like one side. Maybe I threw it in this drawer. I did. I threw it in this drawer. All right, good. This asteroid looks more like a comet than the other object, than my moon. So as this thing's twisting, like I said, there should be just like one place where this stuff's coming out, but there's several tails. Okay, but then they should at least be fuzzy because it's rotating. It ought to be fuzzy. They're not fuzzy, Rex. They're very long, very straight, and very highly collimated. That, to me, is highly odd. It's extreme. To me, that's like the biggest thing in my mind. You know, I'm a rocket engineer. To me, that's the strangest thing of all, that you've got these long tails. Some of them are pushing against the solar wind, and those are like, you know, about 400 or 500,000 kilometers long. They're long, pushing against the solar wind. The tail, and here's the other oddball thing. The tail was, okay, you can see the photographs that NASA published, like on the 2nd of June, the 2nd of October, when it was near Mars. The closest approach was on the 3rd of October. Apparently, a high-res camera got a snap of it on the 2nd. Apparently, that's supposed to be its best snap. I don't know why the closest day wasn't its best snap on the 3rd, but the picture they sent us was on the 2nd of October. Yeah, it's got a little fuzz around, a little bit of a tail region, but nothing, there you go, nothing really spectacular. And there were more photographs taken, like I think 13, 14, 15 October by SOHO and other instruments. That's basically the same. Yeah, there you go. 15 to 26 October. Basically the same thing. You see almost no appreciable tail. And then when it actually reached the sun perihelion point on the 29th, mind you, it's still a long way from the sun. It's still in getting, like 700 watts per square meter of sunlight. Not a lot. We get, here on Earth, like 1.2 kilowatts per square meter because we're a lot closer to the sun. So the fact that and by the way, just as a background, I talked about those jets coming off of a comet. It's just where a pocket of ice suddenly is getting some sunlight shining on it, and it's sublimating. What it means, it's outgassing. If you ever put ice in your refrigerator and left it in the freezer and left it for a long time and come back, you'll notice a lot of the ice is missing. What's happened is it's just sublimated off the surface of it. It's the same kind of process. In space, there's no liquid because you're in a vacuum. Water will go, water and many other solids that can easily transfer into a liquid or gas, go straight to gas. They go from solid ice to gas. And so there was a photograph. Now that's on the 25th of November. That's a nice good tell. See if you can find the one taken on about the 9th of November. See if you can find the 9 November pictures. I'm not sure it's in that NASA collection because it's another observatory, another set of astronomers took pictures on the 9th of November. I've shown them on my channel. On the 9th of November, we had a tail that grew from 29 there. Look at how collimated those jets are come up. That's not the one I had in mind. But you can see some really straight looking jets. Look at that. Several of them. You see that? Look at the one up on the upper left, above the main one. Yeah, right there. No, that's one, but back up. Go to about the, anyway, whatever. 2 o'clock position. Next one up. There's another little bit right there. Yeah, right there. Look at that. There are better photographs that show these jets in high refined detail. That's a photo I'm talking about right there. That one was taken, I believe, on the 9th of November. That main tail is 900 kilometers long.
Now, 900 or 900,000?
900. No, excuse me. Yeah, 900,000. What did I say? I meant 900,000 kilometers long. You're right. 900,000 kilometers long. Almost 1 million kilometers long.
Wow.
Now, and that grew in a span of 11 days. Now, if you're typically from a comet, materials that form the jet that off gas that sublimate from them, those so-called jets, the velocity on those jets, which is, not a real super high velocity, I mean, it's actually a lot higher than the ice evaporating in the refrigerator just because it's going into a vacuum, is 0.4 kilometers per second. So in 10 seconds, you can travel 4 kilometers, which is, less than 2 miles. But anyway, so that's, fairly fast still. But if you go through the math on that, and you got 900,000 kilometers, it would take 2,250,000 seconds to get something that far out, which is 37,500 minutes, 625 hours, or 26 days. There was only 11 days available. So this is moving twice as fast, more than 2 times as fast than is typical for anything coming off a comet. The fastest anything usually leaves a comet is some of the real light gases can leave at 0.6 kilometers per second, but they would still, the tail should only be even with that half that long. One way to get something, a bigger, longer tail, is to use some kind of propulsion system, like a rocket motor, ion drive or something, some kind of propulsion to accelerate the particles even faster so you have more efficiency if you're trying to generate a thrust. And the purpose, what's the thrust? It's a force to send you where you want to go. So the lengths of the tails are all too long for natural processes. The fact that those tails are so straight and highly collimated over long distances suggests either the thing is not spinning, it's been stabilized, which would mean it's guided, or maybe there's a number of little rockets and jets around it that it would alternately fire when they're facing the correct position to maintain those jets, which would also kind of evoke the idea of a technological object. So I was, reporting on this, but with a high degree of chuckle until I saw those jets, the length of them, the narrowness of them, the number of them that were so long and narrow, and it didn't make any sense for a natural object. And then for that acceleration to have resulted in getting a comet, it's like scoring a hoop in basketball, to get it within the hill distance of Jupiter, then that's just an extra ding, 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 ding. And that's the one Avi likes best. But to me, the tails are just phenomenal. The tails themselves, the lengths, the highly collimated nature of them. When I look at that, it's like, how does a natural object do that? How can you, with a natural comet, create so many tails that are so long, so highly collimated, so narrow, maintain them over such a length of a time with a spinning object? I have a hard time seeing how that's done with a natural spinning object. I could do it with an artificial spinning object. Like I said, if I had a number of different thrusters around it and I fired each one when it was facing the exact direction that I want it to maintain a specific jet. Or, there was some indication it was spinning earlier, like back in July or something like that. They took some data. But, and I think it was like 1.6 revs a minute or something like that. It may not be spinning now. It may be stabilized. No natural object flies stabilized. So I am now leaning toward there's something funny going on here. I mean, when I look at those jets, I can, NASA didn't talk about that. NASA did their big press conference. Oh, it's a comet. It's a comet. Looks like a comet. Smells like a comet. Tastes like a comet. It's a comet. But they totally did not discuss this. They totally left this discussion off the table. This is what NASA didn't tell you. But this is what Greg Allison can tell you. I'm a rocket guy. And there's just something highly suspicious about this. So the idea that some probes might disembark as it goes around Jupiter would be interesting. The funny thing is our resolution on our best instruments isn't good enough to see something the size of a starship coming off of it. Now, if it's really highly reflective, it still might show up. But if they wanted to conceal probes coming off of it going into Jupiter, they could go into the Jovian atmosphere just under the cloud deck and replicate. If you can. I had a friend from the old paperclip team, the old German rocket scientist team, known as George von Tiesenhausen. And George von Tiesenhausen had an assignment given to him by Wernher von Braun. And Wernher von Braun says, hey, I'm going to give you a 20-ton package on the surface of the moon. And here's Von Neumann's book on self-replicating devices. I want you to come up with a way with a 20-ton package to make a machine that, based on using linear resources, could replicate itself over and over and over. A self-replicating device. And that was a heck of an assignment to give to him, but he gave it to the right guy. Von Braun knew what he was doing. Von Braun used to walk around the Marshall Space Flight Center and talk to everybody. And he made everybody feel important. It didn't matter if you were a janitor, you scrubbed toilets, or you were the top scientists and engineers in his rocket. He treated everybody pretty much the same. And everybody loved him. He didn't care what color you were at all. I see a lot of people don't know jack diddle about the paperclip German rocket scientist team, and they make a lot of accusations about them. I knew quite a few of them really well, And I know most of that's a bunch of hooey. But anyway, I could go more into that.
I appreciate you letting us know that, Greg.
Yeah, it's a bunch of hooey. You know, for example, we had a black guy who was a student in high school who Conrad Dannenberg really, and quite a few others, really helped out to get him to develop a getaway special payload to fly on the space shuttle. And he did. And he started on this in high school, worked on it through college, and he got a job at NASA because he was doing that. That's probably what helped him get his, get through college. And there was some other adults in our groups that worked with him. And then there was some other groups, it didn't matter what color you were, whether you're male or female. If you were excited about science or space, these guys would bend over backwards to help you. And they were extremely polite, really good guys. And you never heard a racist word out of the mouth of any of them. You know, all these people, I don't know, were Nazis. These guys were, they were patriotic. They loved America because America treated them well, brought them over here and took care of them. They loved this country. And they loved the people. And they would do anything to help anyone. And if Conrad Dannenberg went on to teach at Space Camp, and hundreds of thousands of students went through there and just loved him. Anybody that knew these people would appreciate him. But all these people throwing out smack are people that don't know them. They don't know what the heck they're talking about. They're ignorant. I've been there, done that. I knew quite a few of them. I used to go to Conrad Dannenberg's. Look up Conrad Dannenberg, Conrad Klaus Dannenberg, Conrad K. Dannenberg. He's on Wikipedia. He was a deputy program manager for the Saturn V rocket at one time. He designed the injectors on the V2 rocket. There he is. That's when he was much younger. He was a good friend of mine. I actually went to his house and carved his Christmas turkey like 3 or 4 different years.
That's so cool, man.
So I knew these guys. So, don't tell me, I don't hear all the smack I'm seeing all these other people put out. I see it constantly, all the time. A bunch of people that don't know what the heck they're talking about. He was a good man.
Right on, man. I appreciate that.
He was
the more you know.
Really, and he was helping me. When I first met him, I was just out of high school. And there was another one who was, quite a few of the German rocket scientists would go out of their way to help people. Ernst Stillinger was another one, and you'll probably find him on there too. Ernst Stillinger, when I was just a kid out of high school, he took time to talk to me quite a bit and tell me like how they lifted the dome to build the planetarium for the Von Braun Astronomical Society and just all kind of little things like these guys. They loved young people. They would do anything they could to help them, and they didn't put themselves up on some high and mighty pedestal like so many, other lower level managers I met over the years later that thought they were little gods and little tin-horn dictators. These guys didn't act like that. I've seen tons of those other kind of managers at NASA and everywhere else. And, and some of them are just hard to put up with. These guys weren't like that. I never met a one that was. So
that's good, man. That's good.
There were some of the most polite people I've ever met in my life. And so anybody that wants to castigate them need to come talk to me because I'll set you straight. But anyway, all that aside.
Don't piss off Santa or you're going to get on the naughty list. Okay, folks?
That's right. Ho, ho, ho. I am Santa Claus. So anyway, in any event, let's look, I married a black woman. They didn't care nothing about that. It didn't bother them. So, they're totally misconstrued by a bunch of people who don't know what the heck they're talking about. All right, that aside, they were just there. They were in the country, and they were conscripted and did what they had to do. I can go in more detail. We'll skip that. It's not our main topic tonight. But anyway, I don't even know how we got on that. But so,
you must have read a comment on your. I'm telling you, man, it's tough because we do this. We put our heart on our sleeve. We want to share as much as we can with the world and help as many people as we can. And then you get somebody in the comments that just starts making the most outrageous claims. They're not even listening. And you know what? Like, God bless them. But like you said, when you're passionate about something and somebody's stirring the pot and they don't know what they're talking about, especially you and I, because we have a tough time, kind of biting our tongue because we are who we are, man. And yeah, anyway, so let's move on to the next.
We're talking about rockets. This is probably what got me into this, just talking about rockets and propulsion. This is a strange bird with 3 eye atlas. It is extremely odd. So, Avi Loeb has got his list, his growing list, and it keeps growing, of anomalies, which are difficult to explain. And the most difficult thing is when you rack them all together. NASA's made a half-hearted attempt to explain one or two of them. Mm-hmm. They've tried to explain the anomaly between carbon dioxide gas, which we saw a lot more of than is typical, and what you expect to see carbon-carbon or carbon monoxide and more water coming out of a comet. And so they've attributed that. They think over its long journey through interstellar space, it got a lot of cosmic rays on it, and the cosmic rays changed the other molecules in the carbon dioxide. That could happen. That's plausible. But they totally, anything they couldn't explain away, they didn't mention, which is almost everything else. They didn't mention any of them. But the fact that they didn't even show or talk about those jets, I find highly interesting. Now, here's the other interesting. They say it's a comet. Avi Loeb says, well, something traveling that long through space, a spaceship would collect gas and dust, and it would off-gas and look like a comet. I would submit that it's both a comet and maybe a technological device too. I did a video on my Galactic Graves channel where I talked about the prospects of what I call the dark fortress concept. It's my new theory to answer the Fermi paradox. The Fermi paradox is supposed to be the paradox that if you look at all the potential inhabited planets around our galaxy, there should be many technological civilizations much older than us in existence now. For a technological civilization with basically the technology we already have, we should be on the precipice of being capable of sending probes across this entire galaxy within, something like 1 million years. So, and there it is, a few million years right there. And, yep, just above your thing, just a few million years, we should be able to transverse the entire, there he is, Enrico Fermi. That's him. So I did a video on this. And so a lot of people have been scratching their heads trying to explain what's going on there. You should at least be able to look up and see some Kardashev 2 civilization structures or something like that. And that's one thing you and I have talked about in the past. And I had an issue that we couldn't see anything. So I thought, well, maybe they're not there. Maybe we're alone, which is also a stunning conclusion if we are. So, and I am a kind of a fan of panspermia. Life sprung up too fast on this planet. I mean, in terms of single cell organisms, those are very extremely complex. And there's just no way random processes should have gave rise to life as fast. It's like almost as soon as the rocks cool down, you can find microbes. And a little microbe has actually got more internal complexity than New York City. So just to get the proteins folded right is just phenomenal. Phenomenally, the odds are way against it. Like I could go into that. It's a whole nother discussion. But it's almost like impossibly. But yet, there we are. All that said, all that aside, Rex, the Fermi paradox suggests that they should be here, and it should be clear. It's not like they should be just running around like little spooks playing hide and go seek. We should be able to look in the skies and see evidence of them. Well, there's another theory that came out called the dark forest concept. The dark forest idea was put forward in a book called The Dark Forest by Lou Chickson. But actually, you could say that many others predated that. They basically had the same fears, including Stephen Hawkins. And it's like, we don't want people to know we're here because these civilizations could be far more advanced than us. And it could be worse on us than it was for the Native Americans when the Europeans come here. That was what Stephen Hawkins said. Well, Lou Chickson's book basically has the same kind of conclusion. He gets credit for the theory, but he really didn't originate it. It really originated with others prior to him. And Steve Hawkins is one of the most notable, well-known examples of that. And the idea is that a civilization, once it gets the ability, like where we're at, they suddenly discover, oh, crap. man, if we get seen, whoever finds us is almost invariably going to be way more advanced than us, and they might consider us a threat and want to wipe us out. They might want to wipe out all competition. Anybody that could be competition might be a potential threat. They just might wipe you out. So we need to hide. We just need to shut up. In his theory, they just basically quit transmitting and try to be quiet. Well, my dark fortress concept is that being quiet isn't enough, because they can look and see your planet and see that, like we're looking today for signs of technological civilizations around planets with our telescopes. We're just starting to do that for life. And now the idea's become, let's look for technosignatures. What kind of chemicals might you see that might be manufactured in a planet's atmosphere? So we're just starting to look at that. If we are at our primitive level, a more advanced civilization would definitely be on top of that. So my theory is you would actually want to move out away from your planet as much as you could and live in the Kuiper belt and Oort clouds, far away from your planet. And the good thing is there's an enormous amount of resources there. I talked about building these rotating space habitats inside of these comets, or you could build one and basically put material around it to make it look like a comet, and you could hide. And inside this Bernal sphere, it could be like at 1.2 miles in diameter with one rotation per minute, you would get the centrifugal force equivalent to 1 Earth gravity on the inner surface. You could build them bigger than that, but this is just an example at 1 RPM. You could, and the original idea for a Bernal sphere come up from Bernal. He came out with that idea in 1929. Gerard Kilneal furthered the process, the concept in the late 70s of Bernal spheres, and Gerard K. O'Neill Island 3 space colonies, some of which would be about 4 miles in diameter and 20 miles long. We have technology. That was with 1970s bridge building technology. We can build them a lot bigger with the technology we have today. There's one object, Aron 15810, I believe is the name of it, 15810 Aron, which is close to Pluto. It's about 83 miles in diameter and seems to be rotating way too fast to not fly apart if it were a comet. So we sent a New Horizons space probe to take a look. And when before New Horizons got close enough to take any good high-resolution pictures, it shut down. Rex. It turned back on after it was far enough away not to get a good high-resolution picture. Ta-da! Weird. Anyway, so they may be out there already, but how would they do it? Like I said, we would want to build in comets. The cool thing about it is so much material out there in the Kuiper belt and asteroid, and the Kuiper belt and in the Oort cloud, that you could replicate the surface area of the Earth inside of Bernal spheres built from those materials 35,700 times. You could actually build 1.78 trillion Bernal spheres. You could have almost 19 quintillion people, living in them. Imagine that. And I'm about to put out a video. It's going to be talking about how the Chinese are going after a little quasi-moon near Earth that, if they grab these resources and they get up there, they might be able to shut us off from having access to space. But this could be like their little checkmate they pulled on us, rare earth materials, rare earth minerals. They may be trying to do the same thing with space resources. We could build quite a few. We could build, I got the number somewhere. It's going to be in my video. How many thousand, I think somewhere over 10,000. I have to go back and look. Of these, that's not exact number. I calculated it. I can't remember right now, but I'm going to do a video in the next, probably post it tomorrow or by Monday at least, I hope. A video about what the Chinese are doing, and just these little asteroids are quasi-moons that are near-Earth asteroids. How many of these space habitats you can build with that? So we could start right here. We could start around us with this, and then we could step outward, out into the main belt asteroids. We could go out to the Trojan asteroids of Jupiter. The Trojan asteroids, that's the ones, the L4 and L5 points of Jupiter. The big asteroid content in the Jupiter's L4 and L5. Neptune's got them in its L4 and L5. We can just walk our way out to the Kuiper belt and Oort cloud. So this is, we actually have the technology to do this. It's just we need to get up into space in a big enough way to take manufacturing in space to be able to use the materials in space to build things. And we're really close to being able to do that. Of course, that also makes this the most interesting time in Earth's history because we're on either the verge of breaking out and going in and developing and settling space, or wiping ourselves out with World War III. In either case, that would make us highly interesting at this point in time to any other race that might exist in the universe. So if they want to come by, the best way to sneak a visit by would be in a comet. And I think most habitats for intelligent beings in this universe will be inside comets. It's the best place to go. You got so much resources there, it's unbelievable. Plus, it's the best way to hide. And
but how would you deal with the gravitational, how are you going to deal with, if this thing's rotating through space, like how are you going to stabilize the inside of your dome?
Oh, what you would do is you would spin stabilize the body to put it in the rotation you'd want. In fact, you would make it a very low rate while you're building into it. Then you would make it rotate at the rate you wanted. That's one answer. Another answer is you could have an internal shell that has some kind of little maglev devices that keeps it from touching the outer shell. The inner shell may rotate and the outer shell might not, or it may rotate differently. It might have a natural rotation about it, especially if you really wanted to hide well. You could build an inner shell. The concepts for the space colonies called Stanford Toruses and even the Bernal sphere concept had a non-rotational shell around the outside with radiation shielding, just material packed in to provide radiation shielding. Now, the numbers I used in my calculations that I'll be showing in my next video is a 4-meter thick shell, which is big time overkill. 2 meters is more than you need because 6 foot of just lunar regolith is enough to stop. It don't take that much to stop just the regular space radiation. There's these things called cosmic rays. That typical radiation shielding, when a cosmic ray hits it, it will cause it to break up inside because the cosmic rays are so energetic, they'll create secondary radiation particles that will wipe you out. And so your shield's got to be thick enough to stop the cosmic ray plus the secondary particles. And that's the big challenge. But 6 foot of dirt's enough. That's plenty. Maybe 7 inches of lead might work. You got something really dense. Water works. And the cool thing about water works really well. And if you got a comet that's made out of ice and outside is ice, mostly water ice, you got some great shielding. It's great radiation shield. It's also great to absorb energy from micrometeoroid impacts and things like that. So having a comet on the outside of your space habitat is the ideal way to shield yourself. It's also an ideal way to hide. So if you wanted to hide in space, so I got that video called The Dark Fortress. Now, I wrote it to be, because it was a spooky concept, I kind of wrote a lot of poetry into it, and I gave it a real spooky ambience, the way I read it and delivered it, and the music and all that. So, but I just did that to make it more fun. But the reality is, it's a very serious theory. I have come up with my own theory. It is kind of an offshoot of the Dark Forest, but it's called the Dark Fortress because I'm saying, hey, you're going to want to go out and build these little fortresses of solitude in comets. And you can build trillions of them, literally. The cool thing is, if you get enough of these out there in the Oort cloud, if you got like a little trillion Death Stars out there, who's going to come in and invade your solar system? Then you're fine living on your home planet. Because who in the world could deal with that? And the Oort cloud is like 2 light years radius going out. So you've really got a cloud around you, almost 4 light years in diameter of comets that orbit the sun. So you've got a lot of time and distance to stop anything trying to come into your solar system to invade. So if you were worried about an external hostile threat and you had 1.7 trillion Death Stars out there to stop anything coming in, you probably could. There's probably nothing could come in that you didn't allow. So in that case, you can do whatever you want on your own planet.
And real quick, I just got to say, folks, if you're just joining us, Greg Allison is with us, and Greg is a regular on Leak Project, far from regular, though. Personal friend of mine. We've done some great podcasts. He's actually been in aeronautics and aerospace engineering for decades. He's started several chapters that are linked to rocketry. He has a Guinness record from the year 2000 for launching a rocket so far into space. And yeah, grab yourself a drink of water there, man. Also, I want to say, if you're joining us and you're watching it and it's in vertical and you're watching it on your computer, we've got, when we go live now, there's this really cool new feature on YouTube that allows you to go live via vertical and live via horizontal. So we're doing the same live stream. It's just formatting in live, vertical, and then horizontal. So if you're watching on your computer or you're watching on your big screen or your TV, you probably want to watch it via horizontal. If you're watching it on your phone, then you can just watch it on vertical. But that, some people are asking me, why am I getting 2 notifications, you know, that you're going live twice or whatever? It's just because of the format. So just thought I'd throw that out there for you folks, because we got some pretty cool imaging that we're looking at here. And we've got Santa Claus.
Santa Claus with a rocket motor.
Is that from your rocket that you got the Guinness record in from the year 2000?
No, this was the next generation. That's the forerunner of the rocket that was used on Spaceship One that won the X Prize. This is the daddy of that engine. That's like the son of my engine I used to win the Guinness Book.
Okay.
So this is the Hart Cat's Prize rocket motor.
Nice.
The Hart was a company I sprung off, altitude research company, from our HALO project, High Altitude Liftoff Project. High Altitude Liftoff Project was named that before there was ever a game. And it was all about, we were launching rockets and balloons. We started our program in '94. And we actually launched our first ground launch rocket in 1996, 11 May, or something like that. It was in April. No, it was in April 1996. On 11 May of 1997, we did the launch that got us in the Guinness Book of World Records. Although they got the year wrong on that. And then we did another, then we went and did a joint project with NASA, actually, to do a launch from the NASA Pearl River barge. That's the HALO SL2 rocket. And if anybody ever goes to Huntsville, Alabama, go straight to Ale Brewery. When you walk in the main doors, look up to the left, that rocket's hanging from the ceiling. So that's where it is. It's kind of like on public display.
Beer and rockets. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, straight to Ale Brewery. So, so if you're ever there, you can see that.
Oh yeah, I got family out there, man. I got family that runs certain operations for. Well, I don't know if I'm. Yeah, I got family that runs the drone program out there. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I told you about them.
Yeah, drones are interesting. The Army's got some interesting drones.
Oh yeah.
And they had an anti-gravity program too. And their lead researcher was the late Ning Lee. I knew her. She was a member of my Huntsville, Alabama L5 Society, actually.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, she disappeared for a while. We didn't know what happened to her. She went black. So my first video on my Galactic Greg's channel, we were talking about that. The lady who was talking actually, because she was actually planning to create an institute to fund anti-gravity research. And so we were covering a lot. We were doing a survey talking about, if you go back, Galactic Greg's, my oldest videos, or search my most popular video, because actually I combined the two oldest videos into one and paid tribute to Amy Eskridge. She was getting harassed really bad. Now they tried to make it look like suicide, and some people think it was, but a lot of people think that somebody offed her, just to put it. Yeah, there you go. Go to that anti-gravity. The anti-gravity. Yeah, search the most popular. That's the full hour. That's her dad right there. Actually, that room Everybody in that room is engineers. This isn't general public people. This is a room packed at Huntsville Public Library with engineers and scientists and engineers entirely. A lot of some of the most advanced propulsion people that ever worked at Marshall Space Flight Center were in that room. And nobody was laughing and giggling talking about this subject, but everybody took it serious. So that's very interesting. Now somebody copied my video entirely. Now somehow they cleaned up the sound a little bit. It's really odd. We've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sessions at the library. You know, libraries are always supposed to be quiet. But for some strange reason, that night they had somebody doing construction work in a room next door to us, or making a racket like they were doing construction work. And it created a lot of racket in the room. So the sound was terrible. Somebody actually cleaned the sound up and posted it on their channel. I'm going to throw a copyright strike on them because, you know, they gave me no credit whatsoever. They mentioned how that's why I'm in Male 5 Society. But, you know, they didn't, you know, give me any credit. They just stole my video 100%. Whole thing, except the part where I was giving an intro. I don't know. I hadn't really. I wonder if they edited my questions to it out. I had to go back and look at that. But they just cut me out completely and like took credit for it. And you can read the comments. Everybody's thanking that person for that video. It's like, really? That's my video. So I'm gonna have to throw a copyright strike on them. I've never done that before, but when you take my entire video and, you know, just run with it like that, that's not cool. Didn't even ask me. Nothing like that. Giving me no credit. So it's okay. Shame on you. And, you know, they got other videos in there. I suspect they've done the same thing to other people. So that's kind of a shame. Anyway, all that aside, I knew Amy. I've met a lot of interesting people in my life, Rex. Many. Yeah. If anybody wants to know, if you look at the Vostok conspiracy, you look that up, you'll find that Buzz Aldrin quoted me. So
what did he quote you on?
Property rights in space.
Cool.
That's, you know, I was the chairman of the policy committee of the National Space Society for 10 years. And I had long been an advocate for trying to maintain property rights in space so that we could actually one day colonize and develop space. The UN was trying to squash all that. And I knew if that took place, we would never have any way to get anything going up there. We would be locked on this third drop in the sun until we did ourselves in or something else did us in. It made no sense. But anyway, so property rights in space. I covered that in an article I wrote in our magazine called Ad Astra, and Buzz Aldrin quoted me for that.
That's
I knew
cool,
Buzz Aldrin. He called my house actually a few times. Hugh Downs was our chairman of our board of governors. He called my house once.
Wow.
So, you know, they say you're only 6 people away from knowing anybody on Earth. And I knew him, actually knew him. I mean, you know, I'd meet him at our meetings. And he knew Barbara Walters. And God, she interviewed every crazy world dictator in the world, just all these people. So, you know, I figure I'm probably 2 or 3 people away from knowing everybody.
Well, of course you are. You're Santa Claus.
So yeah, the Santa Claus, I know everybody. So that's another matter.
That's funny, man.
That's not my Santa Claus connection, but anyway. So yeah, but the whole thing is that this 3i Atlas, you know, all that is just to kind of build up. This thing is odd. It's now got me scratching my head. It is, you know, I could laugh it off to a point, but when I saw those straight, narrow, highly collimated jets coming out that weren't disturbed by rotation of this device, I've got to say that it's not rotating, or they got a whole lot of thrusters on there, highly coordinated to maintain the jets in the direction they want. Either case suggests to me a technological object. But I've also, is what the case I was making, it can be a comet and a technological object too. In fact, that's exactly what I would suspect and be looking for. And that fits entirely within my dark fortress concept to answer the Fermi paradox. And that would also explain why you don't see the big megastructures in the sky, yet they could still have the big populations. They just wouldn't form them into a discrete Dyson sphere at least too often. Unless it was around another star, not your home star, you might build one there.
Well, and do you remember, let me jump in real quick, because there were a few reports last year that potential Dyson spheres discovered with
yes,
a lot of
and I
data.
covered that. I just covered that in the video on Galactic Grids. They found 7. Now, here's what's interesting. I would say no civilization will arise around a red dwarf star, class M star. The reason being is they throw out horrendous solar flares, some that could strip the atmosphere of planets from some of those stars. And any planet would be in the habitable zone, because they're tiny stars. You'd be really close to it. You would be, it would be like the moon. It would have one face locked in toward the star all the time. And so that one spot facing the star would get crazy hot. The other side would be crazy cold. And the hot side would well up all the air that went there and into a big vortex, like a gigantic hurricane, planetary hurricane, and it would go around to the other side of the planet and collapse. It might not rotate the way we do, because that planet's not spinning. Well, there is the orbit. They do have fast orbits, so it would rotate. Anyway, and so you'd have like 2 gigantic hurricanes on the planet. One on the sun-facing side, where everything's getting sucked up and welling up, and then blowing around, and then cascading in on the cold place. That would probably help warm it up a little bit on the cold place. So the only really habitable places would be along the edge of that planet, where you're on the edge between where it's light all the time and where it's dark all the time. But you would have horrendous winds there. We don't know if you could actually have an atmosphere. Now, if you had a big enough planet that it would be a water planet, the water would moderate a lot of the temperatures. And so life might be more plausible on a water planet. But if it didn't have plate tectonics, you wouldn't have continents and land like we have. Everything would get eroded down by weather. So it's very difficult for a civilization to arise around one of those kind of stars. Now, there's 10 times more of those stars than there are any other kind of star. So you would expect that there would be 10 times more chance for a life in other civilizations if civilizations could arise around those. I do agree with another Fermi paradox theory called the mundanity theory when they wrote that up into the theory. That part I agree with, but I more or less shot the mundanity theory down in another video I did. I did a video where I attacked one of the other Fermi paradox propositions because I thought it was stupid. Because they really assumed you need a lot more technology to have a credible spread across the galaxy. And I basically shot it down. But, she did make some good points. So Robin, what was her name that wrote that? Robin, I forget her last name right now. But anyway, now I did show the paper she wrote it from. I may have listed a link to it, probably did, in the video. So I've covered a lot of subject matter on these kind of things. The thing that's really struck me is that the only things that we have found that look like Dyson spheres, now here's interesting, happen to be around red dwarf stars, class M stars. And like I said, you wouldn't want to build a structure around your home star. But if a star is not your home star, you might just build one. So even with the dark forest and dark fortress concepts, building a structure like that around the star that's not your home star is more plausible. So what about that? That makes it more interesting.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, that actually reinforces my dark fortress concept. We should be seeing Dyson spheres if there weren't no concerns about, if a civilization had no concerns about other civilizations finding them, we should see them around sunlight stars. But so far we've not. It's only been around, and we don't know that those are Dyson spheres, but they're candidate Dyson spheres. But we've only found them around the red dwarf stars. Now, we find them close enough into the center where red dwarf stars don't have a lot of asteroid materials around them, probably because once they form and start firing out those flares, they probably clear everything close to the star out. But they probably still have Oort clouds, maybe Kuiper belts. If you can have planets, you probably got Kuiper belts. That means if you got planets, you once had an accretion disk around the star that would form the star and planets. But we don't find debris fields close to an active red dwarf star. Probably because they're flaring, just clears all that stuff out. But you would still expect to have an Oort cloud, maybe a bigger Oort cloud. Well, these Dyson sphere candidates are within that area that you don't see the debris fields. So that's why they think that they're not debris fields, that they're looking at something different. So that's the interesting thing. But, they could have built them from comets or things out and just brought them in, or they could have deconstructed moons of some of those planets and built those things. Or they could be natural. Like I said, we still, they haven't ruled that out entirely. But they've passed a lot of filters. We got 7 cases. It could be Dyson spheres, but they're all around type M stars, which is highly interesting.
It is. And I also want to say what else is interesting is the first time this planetary defense has been activated. It's literally underneath the United Nations. It's a United Nations program. And that's why earlier, folks, I had the United Nations logo up there and like, Rex, what is that weird purple crown you have over your head? I'm like, dude, it's just the UN logo. Sorry, I'll take it down. I changed it. Now we've got people in Chicago ready for battle. But anyway, so this is very interesting that they actually have a international asteroid warning network, and the campaign, it's activated as planetary defense. But what does it actually mean? Does it mean we're going to be shooting nukes at it? No. They're going to save that for YR4 probably. They haven't confirmed it yet.
Yeah.
They're talking about nuking YR4 because they say it could.
Right.
So
I don't know if that's going to happen or not. What they're worried about with YR4 is if it hits the thing that may hit the moon, good chance of it does, it could kick up a lot of debris from the moon that could impact our satellites. And there's this thing called the Kessler limit. If we get too much debris in orbit, it could fill orbit with all kind of junk and basically block out our access to space. It'd be like a chain reaction. Once these satellites start blowing up, or they create more debris, and then one hits another and creates more debris. A chain reaction. It's going to be a runaway chain reaction. It could just keep us from putting anything in space. Now, I've got an answer for that, and that's to armor our satellites, build a shield around them with regolith from the moon or from these little objects, these quasi-moons, like the one China's going after, which I'm about to do a video on. And so you could actually build a little orbital foxhole that would protect you. Now, if you wanted to have an Iron Dome laser up there to shoot down enemy missiles, then you'd have a problem getting rid of your waste heat. If somebody shined a laser on you, they would cook you off real fast and you'd be in trouble. But if you're in a little orbital foxhole built out of regolith, which is just the rocky material from the moon surface or one of these quasi-moons or a near-Earth asteroid, you could absorb that heat. Matter of fact, you could dissipate the heat from your lasers into it. And you could also absorb the impacts from these orbital debris items and even space radiation. So I think this is going to be a huge market for lunar resources, is to build these little orbital foxholes. And if you want to launch something big, if you launch something in space, a rocket would get taken out pretty fast if we hit the Kessler limit and you get that chain reaction. But if it's a real big rocket and it's armored around the sides, like maybe something like Starship, then it could probably survive until it could slip into one of these foxholes. Now, on these foxholes, you could put a propulsion system and use it to transit this part of space is full of debris. It would look kind of like a comet. It would look kind of like a 3-eye atlas, maybe an asteroid version. So, and it would fit very well within this whole dark fortress kind of technique for building things. So there is a way to keep it going, but it's not simple. But you would use space resources to make it happen. But, to kind of recapitulate, I think most civilizations and most creatures that probably live in space, most likely live in comets because there's just so much more to build out of with comets. Like I said, we could replicate the surface area of the Earth 35,700 times from the resources in our Kuiper Belt and asteroid belt, and not asteroid belt, and our Oort cloud. We could probably build 500 Earths out of our main belt asteroid. Oh yeah, for the near Earth asteroids, we could actually build 20% of this. Yeah, I remember this number now. We could build 20% of the surface area of the Earth just from the asteroids right here near Earth. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but North and South America combined only represent 8% of the surface area of the Earth. The moon has roughly the same amount of land as North America and South America combined. So you could 2.5 times that just from near Earth asteroids. Imagine that. Near Earth asteroids, the stuff that's right here close to Earth. So I'm going to put out a video in just a few days on this, but it's going to be about the Chinese attempt to grab one of these quasi moons. So you can go back and just find, I've done a ton of material recently talking about related topics, talking about space mining, talking about, and I did the space mining video, and the ones, as I said, UFOs are from Earth. And there's another video. I did like 3 videos as a prelude to the one where I was shooting down the mundanity theory, because those were preludes to that. They kind of built into the making the case for shooting down the mundanity theory. Yeah, there's my universal habitat concept. A home you can live in, make a living out of, and grow your food in, everything. You know, this one habitat. There's the heart. There you go. You see that one on that heart raccoon? That motor is the motor I got behind me here. The motor for that rocket. You can see that rocket in the upper left-hand frame of that picture. You got to sit there. Yeah, you saw it there. Right there it is. There it is. You can see that rocket right there. So, yeah, I made a video on the 25th anniversary. It's been that long ago, guys. You know, I started this stuff in 1994 with the Halo program. 1994. That was 31 years ago. So you can see I've done that video right there. I talked about see 3i Atlas to see Jupiter. Now I'm talking about the hill distance in that video, which we talked about in this video. If you look at that picture, 3i Atlas guided, you can see those jets real well in that picture right there. Those jets are really prominent. The column-made along jets. That picture has them really prominent. So I've done several videos on this topic. Yeah, that's one. That's one photograph where you can kind of see them. There's some others, some better ones than that, but that's one. What's that one? Click on that one. There you go. Perfect. Perfect. Right there. And see, he's somebody marked them to show you where you can see them better. Very long collimated jets, several of them. They stay long and collimated over very long distances. If the body that's sourcing that is rotating, that would be crazy. You can't see the nucleus. That dark spot is the coma. This is like a negative image. That's the coma. That's the cloud of particles around it. Another funny thing is there's actually an unusually thick cloud of particles preceding in the front end of 3i Atlas. And that makes sense if you're looking, which you shouldn't see with the regular comet. That makes sense if you want a debris buffer, something to take impacts from debris ahead of you as you stream through the solar system. There's a lot of oddball things about this, but you should not see those jets like that. They shouldn't exist. You might have 2 tails and maybe 1 anti-tail pointed directly at the sun. But we got like 2 major anti-tails and really 3.
Weird.
And they are about 2.5 times larger than they should be if they were created by natural sublimation processes where the sun's heating up the surface of the comet and causing gases to evaporate off, which suggests it could be a thruster. which would suggest a technological object. So,
Wow.
what
Right on, man.
obviously don't count as an anomaly is the timing of this thing just coming when it's coming into our solar system. It's coming into our solar system right when we're on the verge of launching things like Elon Musk's Starship, SpaceX Starship, which could get us into the point where we actually could afford to put factories in space that can make stuff from the resources in space so that we can live off the energy and resources of space. There's so much more energy and resources in space than on Earth. Why are we fighting over Earth today? Yet we're also on the verge of World War, wiping ourselves out here on the surface there, fighting over the breadcrumbs down here when there's so much more available in space. If you could replicate the surface area of the space, if you combine the asteroids and these other things I'm talking about, then you're talking, probably 36, 37 times the surface area of the Earth. Total, way more than normal. Crazy amounts of things are available. We could build worlds. There's concepts for building worlds that are really almost the size of Earth, just turned inside out and rotate. You could have continents. You could have people living Stone Age existence if you wanted to in these worlds. You could have wild worlds. You could have worlds where you could create an Ice Age world where you got, if you want to genetically recreate mastodons, who knows, maybe we can have a Jurassic Park the size of Earth out there in space. You might could have, like I said, worlds where you have that people might choose to live, a native population way of living, chipping flint, wearing hides, living in wigwams and teepees. Or you could have highly complex technological civilizations, and, just anything in between. You could have an Amish space colony. Keepest thou out.
I'm like, how the hell would you do that? But yeah, I guess it's in theory. It would have to be all natural though. No electricity.
Yeah, well, it'd be natural on the inside.
Yeah. That'd be cool. That'd be pretty cool. Oh man, I gotta say, this is absolutely incredible. And the way that it changed course just enough when it went around the sun to be in that special zone around Jupiter.
It's called the hill distance.
The hill distance. That's very, very interesting, man. That is like absolutely fascinating. I mean, I've had some guys on the show that have talked about the EU cosmology, which I think is fascinating. And I think that the EU cosmology explains some of the things like the changing of color, the way that it got brighter blue as it went around the sun. I mean, because if you study metals when they're at their hottest, they're blue. And then one analogy brought up was, okay, think of a plasma coil. And, when you got all these plasma strands that are hitting the glass in this circle, this plasma ball. But when you put your finger on the glass, then the plasma will hit your finger, right?
Yeah, go back to that picture taken on the 9th of November. The one that showed that tail that I liked so much. The one where I said it was 900,000 kilometers long. Find that picture again, if you can. Because there's something interesting about that picture that we didn't talk about that fits in what you're talking about. That will fit with that discussion.
Right here.
Find it.
This guy.
There you go. Go to the bottom one, especially because the one in black and white, you can really see it good. The one in the negative.
Hold on a second. Okay. I've already subscribed to you, Professor Loeb.
There you are. Notice at the tail end is a really big ball of gas. That corresponds to when it brightened up so much all at once, when it was showing that bluish color. That's when they turn the engines on, Rex.
Interesting.
That could be your blue right there. They fired, when they first fired them engines, they hit it hard.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Hey, it's got kind of a shock wave or something. There's kind of it does make like a ball, and you can see the leading edge of it. It's kind of devoid at one of the areas, really like a big ball. It's just like, hey, they fired it up, and it had a sudden brightening, and that's when Avi said it was blue. Now, some people denied that, but isn't that weird?
That is weird. That's
So, and
cool.
just a big puffball at the very end. I've never seen that in a cometary tail. Now, over time, that stretched out and started looking like a normal cometary tail. You might see that if the comet broke up, and you can see real two prominent tails out in front of it there. And those are like anti-tails. So it's got anti-tails pointed toward the sun, and it's got that big tail behind it. All of that stuff could be accelerating it to give it the exact course correction you want to get within the hill distance of the sun. But that puffball, I also find highly interesting. It didn't break up. So like I said, it might have been just why it was at perihelion was the best time to stomp the gas pedal.
Yeah.
Floor it, man, floor it. So that could have been a plasma. It could have been ion engines or something at that point in time firing some kind of plasma or particle accelerators that could have gave it the blue color and caused that big puffball back there. And that's when it got the main acceleration. The best time to get the main acceleration was right when it was at that perihelion point on the what date was that? The 29th of October. Had to think about it a little bit. That's so many facts rattling around in my head on this right now. So, how about that, Rex?
Like, dude, I hope they stop and say hello and maybe, pick us up, take us for a ride. And then as long as they bring us back, I would appreciate it if you could get me back by 9. No. Wow.
Oh, I know what got us in that topic of the Germans. I was talking about von Tiesenhausen.
Okay.
The reason I was talking about von Tiesenhausen was he was given the job by Werner von Braun of coming up with a self-replicating device with a 20-ton package. Now, this was in the early 70s. Von Braun left the Marshall Space Center before 1974. So it was right around, we landed on the moon first in 69, last moon landing in 72. So it was probably around 72 or maybe a little bit earlier. So it was been early 70s he got this job. And von Braun tossed von Neumann's book. Von Neumann wrote a theoretical book about self-replicating machines. Well, von Tiesenhausen said he looked at that book and there was nothing but theory. It's just all high-level theory. He says, I can't do nothing with that. I need to engineer a device. So he just set upon coming up with how to engineer a device that could self-replicate itself. It had to be contained within a 20-ton package and use the materials available on the moon. He did it. Back in the 1970s, early 1970s, von Tiesenhausen cracked the problem. He figured out how to do it. Now, fast forward to today, we got this idea of molecular technology, nanotechnology. There was a guy named K. Eric Drexler wrote the book Engines of Creation. And I know K. Eric Drexler also. Because why? He was on the board of directors of the L5 Society and the National Space Society, just as I was, in the National Space Society. K. Eric Drexler worked with T. Henry Combs that did mass drivers, coil guns, which I talk about a lot, and also with Gerard K. O'Neill. And I've shown you the picture of me and Gerard K. O'Neill, I believe, once upon a time at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. So, I met Gerard K. O'Neill. But von Tiesenhausen is the guy who come up with actually engineered it, come up with an engineering solution for how to do this. Not with molecular, with, large scale devices, but still fit in a 20-ton package. Why do I bring that up? Because if you drop a 20-ton package, that's like the payload of a space shuttle or what you could land on the moon with a Saturn V. It's much smaller than what a Starship would launch. You wouldn't see a 20-ton package with telescopes, even with Juno out at Jupiter. They couldn't see something that small. You couldn't resolve it. So you could drop these kind of packages into the Jovian atmosphere and basically, especially molecular manufacturing technology, and make self-replicating devices drop below the cloud deck on Jupiter.
Hell yeah.
And here's what's interesting. in the book 2010, if you've got the book 2010 written by Arthur C. Clarke as the sequel to the book movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, I believe it's on the back cover. He came up with this idea. If you ever saw the movie, that monolith went to Jupiter, went into the atmosphere, and started self-replicating and turned Jupiter into a star. He got that idea from George von Tiesenhausen and gave him credit for it in the book.
Nice.
He got that concept from George von Tiesenhausen. And where's 3ILS going? Jupiter. Jupiter. And it could indeed drop a probe into the atmosphere, and you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't see it until either Jupiter turned black from all these devices clouding its atmosphere or turned into a star. I don't think it could turn into a star because it's not got enough mass. But still, there was one shortcoming that Arthur C. Clarke should have known better than, but he ignored it. Which, considering how accurate he normally was with his science, I'm surprised by that. Jupiter don't have quite enough mass to make for a star, unless you could do something weird with gravity. But it was kind of interesting that George von Tiesenhausen inspired a major fraction of that story, the book, the 2010, and it was at Jupiter. Now, the original 2001 book was set at Saturn, but Stanley Kubrick couldn't replicate the rings of Saturn to make it look realistic. So he chose for the movie to make it go to Jupiter. And so in 2010 book, Arthur C. Clarke stuck with Jupiter. And then they made a movie on that.
Sorry to interrupt. Saturn is like, there's a lot of mythology on Saturn, and there's a lot of people, including myself, that think that Saturn at one point could have actually been activated and larger. And that's why potentially so many people worshipped Saturn. Or was Saturn Shamash, the ancient Sumerian deity? But Shamash is considered the sun god. But then later it goes from Shamash to Utu, and Utu would be the sun that we look at now, Sol. But fascinating, like especially with the Jewish traditions and Saturn and the worship of Saturn Day. I find it so interesting to think about. So the fact that he was going to that he chose Saturn first, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me at all. I think that's fascinating. I got to ask you this. This guy right here is his name's Dr. John Brandenburg. I haven't had a chance to speak with him, but plasma physicist, fusion energy, advanced space propulsion. He's an author. I think he's actually worked with. Well, I'm not sure. Did he work with NASA? I don't remember. But anyway, make a long story short, this guy has tweeted a lot or left posts on X that he believes 3I Atlas is absolutely a spacecraft. Like he's convinced. At least the post that I've read, it seems to be he's pretty convinced.
I'm pretty much there now. I was in it on my videos just saying, hey, it's a rock, but it can still be a rock, but have a technological object in it. I actually think that's what it is. I think it's a comet with a technological object embedded, with basically a propulsion system, space habitat. I think it's a generational ship. They're trying a generation ship.
Generation ships? That sounds cool.
I think it's a generation ship.
I love it.
I think it fits entirely with my Dark Fortress concept. And I think the anomaly that that Avi Loeb didn't talk about is that it's visiting us at this point in our history where we're either at the crossroads of a breakout civilization going into space or wiping ourselves out. This is the most interesting time to take a peek at Earth. Now, if they set up in Jupiter, they can watch us safely from a distance. Yeah, Jupiter's like a little mini solar system on its own with its moons.
Well, I mean, Jupiter and Saturn are both like mini solar systems. They both have dozens of moons, don't they?
Yeah, well, Europa and many of those ice moons are thought to have oceans within them bigger than the ocean of Earth.
Yeah. How cool is that?
So, it's because it's thicker, a lot thicker. Even though the moon itself isn't as big as Earth, if you already look at it, When you look at the Earth being something like 8,000 miles across or 4,000 miles in diameter, and the oceans are at best usually only a couple miles thick, it's very minuscule. The amount of water, even our atmosphere, is more minuscule. Our atmosphere is mostly within the first 20 miles. You're above 99% of the atmosphere once you reach where I used to send my balloons to launch rockets. The atmosphere was only 1% thick at 20 miles up, 100,000 feet roughly. 1%. 99% of your atmosphere is within the first 20 miles. Yet Earth is 8,000 miles in diameter. I mean, if you took a sphere of brass, 9 foot in diameter, and shined it, polished it where it was like a mirror. I mean, just polished it where you couldn't see nothing on it. And if you were to look at it with a microscope or a really good magnifying glass, maybe the ridges that would be on that sphere would be higher comparatively than the mountains on Earth. And if you breathed your breath on it, the condensate from your breath would be thicker than the oceans on Earth by comparison. So just think about that. So our biosphere is extremely thin compared to all the materials that it takes on this planet to give us the diameter, circumference, so, for that biosphere to exist on, and the gravity we need. It's a very inefficient way to build a world. If you built the world inside out, you'd only need about 2 meters instead of you need like a couple yards really, instead of 4,000 miles to the core. So that's why you could take the materials of the near-Earth asteroids and build 20% of the surface area of Earth. You could take the materials of the main belt asteroids and build at least 500, maybe 1,000 times the surface area of the Earth. You go out to the Kuiper Belt and Oort clouds, you can build 35,700 times the surface area of the Earth from comets. That's why comets are so cool. And we just hadn't figured that out yet. You can hide in them. You get everything you need. If you get fusion power, hey, then you can use the water to make fusion that's in the comets themselves. If we hadn't mastered fusion by then, heck, just a little nuclear reactor the size of these new portable nuclear reactors that come up with will totally power it. Just a small modular nuclear reactor will give you all the power you need. And you can have a city inside with about 10,000 people, 20,000 people easy.
Oh, man. Sounds fun, doesn't it?
Every one could be a little independent island. We're talking 1.78 trillion of these little island habitats. Every one of them could have their own culture inside, their own tribe, their own habits, their own rituals, their own ambience, whatever it might be, flavor, whatever you want to call it, color. Each one, you could have so much diversity. You could have every one of them could have its own government, its own style of government. They could try and experiment with everything you could imagine. Everyone would be their own little test tube, their own little experiment in trying to find a better way to live. So that's why I said you could have someone be Amish, keep us thou out. Or you can have some real high-tech places, It could be just anything in between.
Data center comets.
Do I?
Data center comets.
Data center comets. Oh, yeah, don't tell Elon. Oh, my God.
Oh, shit. What have we done? Yeah. The new.
Elon's going to hear this now, and we're in trouble. No, Elon wants to he's planning to put data centers in space now.
Him and Jeff.
Put them in the ocean. But in space, because you got all the solar energy, and you've got you can radiate the heat away. Mm-hmm. And it's actually a better idea because it don't contaminate our environment here on the surface. And then if you start using, that's all the more reason to go out there and start grabbing stuff from these quasi moons and begin this process of building in space. And there's always going to be the next level market. The next thing to do is you spread out. we got NASA sending a probe to Psyche, the asteroid Psyche, and the probe's called Psyche. And it's thought to have enough gold there to make everybody a trillionaire. Of course, the value would go down. But there's tons of gold and platinum group metals out there in Psyche. I would say the planet Mercury is probably mostly a planetary core. Being it's the closest sun, it's probably been hit so many times by comets that the crust probably got blown off long ago. So it's going to be a highly metallic place. So if you want a lot of metals, that's a good place to go. Psyche is thought to be a core of a planet, planetesimal, planetoid, or something of a primitive protoplanet that probably got everything else beat off of it. So there is a wide array of things out there. Basically, everything you need to build a civilization and the energy is in space, far more than here on Earth. You could take, what Gerard K. O'Neill wanted to do is he wanted to take manufacturing off the surface of the Earth and put it in space, because he wanted to make Earth a preserve to save Earth. So just take all that stuff up there. And once you get the right kind of a space economy going, you really could do that. Right now, space is expensive because we have to launch everything to space with a rocket. But we are getting cheaper rockets now, and that will help us get to the point when we can actually obtain our resources in space without having to launch it up.
The Borg are getting you, Greg.
The Borg are getting me.
Yeah, let's try that again. You froze up. What were you saying?
Wow. What was the last thing you heard? What I was saying is that you could, the most expensive part of going to space and developing space right now is the rocket ride. It costs a lot of money to launch rockets into space, and rockets are very risky. But, every time you fly a rocket, it kind of scares me. Those things can blow up. But once you get into space, if you can start using the resources in space to manufacture in space and the energy in space, then that stuff don't have to be launched. And once you really start manufacturing in space from materials in space, mining space, then you're in a whole new economy, and it is limitless. It is mind-boggling what we could actually do with space resources. There is no point in us fighting over all this stuff down here on Earth the way we're doing. It's insane. We're on the verge of wiping ourselves out when we're on the precipice, maybe, of the grandest adventure with more wealth than anybody could imagine. We're fighting over little scraps of land and little scraps of resources and little scraps of money when, we've been, the last, what was it? I had a chart somewhere recently said in the last couple of decades, we've spent like $17 trillion globally on defense. If we'd have put that money in space, we'd all be wealthy today, beyond measure. There'd be so many lives saved. It's insane that what we're doing, fighting each other, we're really robbing ourselves. Even when you win, you're robbing yourself. And we're robbing our future, the future of our kids, and putting ourselves and all life on Earth at the risk of extinction over whatever little thing, petty things we're fighting over here on Earth. We need to find a way to rise above it.
That's what I'm talking about.
And the final thing to know is that with the proliferation of technology, which is something you're not going to stop, you may slow it down. We are at the precipice right now of having technology that small groups could have anywhere in the world that could wipe out everybody. We're in a world today, we're on the verge of it, where if we continue with all the hatreds that we have, Rex, we're not going to survive. We will wipe ourselves out. And we're heading in the wrong direction. We're fanning the flames of hatred. We've got to find a way out of this, because we cannot survive ourselves if we continue with all the hate mongering. We got to find a way out of it. So that may be the hardest thing for us to do, but if we don't do it, we're probably not going to survive. Unless somehow we can break out into space beforehand.
Well,
but we still need to work on that.
I got hope, man. I'm optimistic. I see a bright future and a lot of great opportunities for every action. Like you said earlier, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So you choose. And I'm going for, like, space sounds great. Let's do the life extension stuff. That sounds awesome. Nanobots, just rewrite your. Here you go. Here's some nanobots. All right, let's go. Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm joking, but at the same time, I think that there's a really bright future for all of us. And I think that, if we're optimistic and we focus on that and we really put our intentions out there and be the change we want to see, like you're being the change, you're definitely being the change. And I love that, man. Folks, so not only is Greg a rocket scientist, an aerospace engineer, he's got a cool homestead. He makes wormholes, wormhole generators, literally. Green Greg's worm farm. So
I got worms.
We got worms. Hey, have you ever seen mealworms eat really spicy? I saw these. There's these. Anyway, it's ridiculous. Some of the things that come up my YouTube feed. But I was getting this YouTube recommend the other day for, like, these this guy would just dump a whole bunch of mealworms in and then put food in it and do a time lapse, and you'd see all these mealworms eat food. And he put in, like, the spiciest pepper in the world in there. And that was one of the few things the mealworms did not eat. They would eat everything else, but they knew. They're like, oh, yep, we're going to hold off on that.
Well, anyway. It's like earthworms. Earthworms are real soft-bodied creatures. Their whole skin is like the inside of your mouth or your tongue. So people, when they say, can I feed this to an earthworm? I said, well, would you want that inside your mouth? How do you think they will react to it? Their whole body is like the inside of your mouth. So you don't want to feed them anything too spicy or too acidic. It's not good for them. So in any event, so I got a lot of videos on Green Greg's about raising Mars. My most popular video of all, it's got over 500,000 views, and it's 5 keys for raising worms. So that's my most popular video.
Raising worms.
I do cover that. I cover gardening, organic gardening, how to grow stuff without having to go to the store, how to survive. I'm really worried about a cycle of civilizations. I'm going to do a video on Green Greg about that soon. I think we have had prior civilizations on this earth that have been far more advanced than what most people realize. And I think that they have been wiped out, and I'll talk about that. I think in the last 12,000 years, they've been wiped out twice. A lot of people think once. Younger Dryas isn't the only event. We had a comet hit the Indian Ocean about 5,000 years ago. Something called, I believe it's called the Buckle Crater, Buckle. I don't know, I'm going to cover that. So in the Indian Ocean. And that coincides roughly with the era, biblically, of Noah's flood. Not the Younger Dryas, Noah's flood. That coincides real well with that. Yeah, there's Green Greg's channel. A lot of worm stuff there. And the most popular videos. Some power grid stuff. There I am on mobile trauma. So I did do a lot of worms, a lot of gardening, safety zones, bug out zones, wild edibles, microgreens. I grow a lot of microgreens. The sulforaphane in broccoli microgreens actually brings out the microplastics out of your body. Well, they'll bring them out of your tissues, but you need to go to sweat sauna to actually get them out. Sulforaphane forms glutathiones, which are like essential to your immune system. And they're 40 times more concentrated in a broccoli microgreen than a head of broccoli. 40 to maybe even up to 100 times more. So people might want to go back and watch those old broccoli microgreen videos about how to raise microgreens. So I plan to do some more. I saw microgreens until just a couple of years ago. And that's when I was, had to shut down to move things here. So I might do I'll probably start raising them again. So that's real good for you. I've covered a wide range of things, everybody consider my Green Greg's channel, my Galactic Greg's channel. If you like space, if you like politically conservative stuff, I got some funny satire short videos on my Swivelhead News channel. So, I've got different things you might want to check out in those regards, just depending on what you're liking. No politics on galactic grids. It's a space channel. I might talk about China a little bit every now and then because they are a threat and we're in a space race with them. But outside of that, it's technical. And I don't know, maybe we'll get into alien politics one day.
Let's do it. So, we should do another follow-up on the grid too. How are things going with the grid projects, the securing the grid?
Well, we got some guys trying to figure out how to just harden the grid of one state. And so, for starters, we may focus on Colorado. But really, there's not been anything done to get the grid hardened. And we're in a big risk over that, huge risk. So, hey, I live off grid here. But, I recognize that, if the grid goes down, I'm not going to town to buy propane, no gasoline, nothing. No medicines. You better be able to live with what you got. And that's why I live off grid. So I'm trying to live what I preach. I'm growing my gardens out here. I've got chickens out here. I got worms. And I'm a space guy. So figure all that together. I can't hear you, Rex.
I was gonna say, yeah, no wonder you only get 2 hours sleep a night.
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of interest. I love history. I studied geopolitics. I trying to, military. When I was a kid in middle school and early high school, I had really thick books on military strategy that I was reading. So all my classmates were reading comic books, and I had these big, thick military strategy books I was reading.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, Greg, you're awesome, brother. I really appreciate you. I know you're super busy. So, folks, definitely want to thank Greg and subscribe to all of his channels. He's super busy, but he still took some time out of his schedule to spend with us here. And I've got links to your channels in the video description box. So subscribe to all of them, folks, because he's like Swivelhead News, Green Greg's, Galactic Greg's, and I can't remember the other one.
That's my 3 channels. I got one called Serenity Sounds. It's just a video of frogs playing, singing. It's just something for relaxing. And a video with raining on my old tin roof of my old log barn, which is no longer existent. It burnt down last summer. And I got a ton of video I was wanting to record and upload on that channel, but uploading the sound videos takes like days. It's crazy.
Bro, you're getting bored again. As soon as I asked you, you're getting super bored. What? All of that was just. What did you say? Sorry.
Oh, Borg.
You got borged out.
I was saying I got a channel called Serenity Soothing Sounds, and it's rain on the roof of my log barn on the tin roof, and it's the sounds of frogs in the woods behind my house, little peeper frogs. And so I was saying that I wanted to put more video on that channel, but that my last video uploaded took like 2 or 3 days to upload. It was crazy. It was insane. Maybe with Starlink I can do it faster. I don't know. Or maybe I need a server and a computer just dedicated to doing that kind of stuff. So I didn't really, I've got a lot of raw material, sound material that I recorded in Alabama from aquaponics and frogs and just different nature sounds, gurgling water, stuff that people, if you just want something to relax by. If I get you too worked up talking about the end of the world on Green Greg's, then you can, or Swivelhead News, then you can watch Galactic Greg's to get inspiration for what the future could be, and then to be able to relax and go to sleep with Serenity Soothing Sound. So I was trying to cover all bases.
You freak people out, give them almost a heart attack. Like, no, calm down. I got something for you. I love it, man. All your bases covered. I love that.
The Soothing Sound videos channel turned out to be the hardest to do anything with. I'm actually planning to start another channel, and it's going to be purely focused prepping news, not news, how-tos. just or just information, just pure information channel. There's a lot of that on Green Gregs, but it's hard to find because there's so much news content. And so this will update a lot of that and just make it one pure how-to information content on grid down, basically, and how to survive. Now, I do have videos on Green Gregs on how to survive nuclear war. They go into great detail. I got video that goes into great detail about how to purify and sanitize water. I show I show or discuss 11 different methods. I have a video on how to make painkiller from wild lettuce. And I talk and show 3 different kinds of wild lettuces, and I discuss those in that video. So there's a lot more content than a lot of the other channels. A lot of times it covers that kind of stuff. Some of those contents, the other channels get millions of views, and I get like a couple thousand. It's like, really? Okay, whatever. So yeah, check it out, guys. Subscribe to my channels and tell me what you think. Leave some comments on some of the videos. I got some more stuff coming out. Hope you both visit down under our stars one day. Where are you at, Sylvia?
I'm guessing Australia.
Yeah, it must be down under, saying it that way.
That was a terrible accent for Australia. That was, I don't know what the hell that was, but yeah, I'm guessing Australia.
Well, okay. I thought it was Sylvia, but it's really S11V1A. Okay, whatever that is.
S11V1A.
S11V1A. Huh?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm just goofing around, dude. It's it's been one of those days. So Greg and I, we had a chance to hang out earlier today too, man. This is pretty cool. I got to see you twice today, Greg.
All right. Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe one day we'll do some more work like we did for those videos back in. You realize that we went, that was 6 years ago, right about now, that we went to California and filmed the Strange Earth videos.
Man, almost 6 years ago.
Yeah, it was right after Thanksgiving weekend, 6 years ago. I went straight from having Thanksgiving with friends here in Snowflake, Arizona, or the home state close to Snowflake. I went straight from here to LA. You picked me up at the LA airport, and we stayed up in Glendale.
Yeah, and we stayed at some like Russian mafia-owned hotel or something.
Exactly.
That whole place. Oh, I remember you saw that one gal. She was speaking Russian, and you said, "Are you speaking Russian or something?" She's like, "Oh no, not at all." And I was like, "You got her." It was so wild, man. So, folks, we're on the Weather Channel, by the way. If you look up the first season of Weird Earth on the Weather Channel, Greg invited me to go out there, and we had a great time. And then there was that comedian guy that did some fun stuff. He was fun.
Yeah,
he was fun.
Yeah, he was a comedian, but he actually professionally was an Air Force nuke pilot. He carried nukes on a fighter jet.
Oh, that's
but
right.
He was the funniest guy in the world.
Yeah.
He was absolutely hilarious. He was just full of humor. We had a good time with Jose. That's
right. And then folks, get this. So Greg and I, we're totally in the Matrix. There's no doubt we're in the Matrix. Everything that happened to us on that journey was so synchronistic and so spiritual and so fascinating that it was meant to be. And then Greg shot a light beam out of his mouth when he said, "Well, we went in a bridge. We went under this bridge where they filmed Back to the Future 2. We went to the Jack Parsons ritual." Right? What's that, Greg? What'd you say?
The Mount Hollywood Tunnel.
Mount Hollywood Tunnel. Yes.
Yeah. And it was a fluke that we got to go up there because the film, the guys running the production we were at says, "Hey, we got to change our setup. This isn't working. So we're not going to be able to film from it. Y'all take a few hours off." They worked us long hours every day. We were there like 10 or 12 hours every day. But they suddenly said, "Well, take off for a few hours." And I looked over at Rick and said, "Hey, we're over close to the Mount Hollywood Tunnel. Let's go over there." We went over there, and this was a total fluke. We didn't know we were going there until we went. And then I started talking to Rex about some of the strange coincidences the filming of the Back to the Future 2 and how Lloyd, what's his name, who was played Doc in Back to the Future 2, Lloyd, what's his name? Shoot. Anyway, I'm getting brain lock right now. But anyway, and some of the other movies and things. Christopher Lloyd, yes. He also played a cartoon character set at the observatory, which is around the corner from the, exactly. Who framed Roger Rabbit. Yeah. And he also played a cartoon character that was set in the observatory just around the corner from us there. So in that observatory, we should have went in there. We didn't go inside. I think it was closed when was up there or something, or we didn't have enough time. I don't remember what the case was, but there's an observatory just right outside there. And this is in the mountains right above LA. And so we're talking about all this stuff, and we're walking through the tunnel and just cutting up as Rex and I do. We get together. We have a lot of fun. But we're walking through the tunnel and just cutting up, and it had good echo properties. And Rex started chanting, "Hugh." I didn't know why he was saying my middle name of all darn things, but he said, "Hugh." He said 3 times.
That was your middle name.
Yeah, I know. And suddenly I decided, hey, Halo would have good echo properties in this tunnel. So I went, Halo. And neither of us knew it at the time, but when we went back and looked at the videos, his camera and my camera both captured light in that halo. I shouted light, literally. And it was modulated to my voice to the word halo. You could see it going down the tunnel as it went down the tunnel. And it was the compression waves and light modulated to the level and amplitude of the sound I was making. And I belted it out pretty loud. That's when I'm not coughing. I can be really loud. I've got a set of pipes, or I did when I was back in the day anyway. My daughter sang opera, by the way, my youngest daughter. So she's got pipes too. But nice. It was really, it was really crazy that when we went back and looked at it, we saw that light. It's like, what is that? And, I asked Rex, why were you shouting Hugh? And he told me it was, a very important frequency, kind of like Ohm. And I looked it up, and it's a frequency called the God frequency, one of the God frequencies, 2 frequencies in that range. But anyway, it was like, wow, you got to be kidding me. I told Rex this is my middle name. So I didn't know why you shouting my middle name walking down the tunnel. I didn't even know my middle name. But here's an oddball thing. So we're in this tunnel talking about Back to the Future. We get back to the hotel. Rex says, oh, by the way, I got a gift to give you. Now, he had set this aside before he drove out of Colorado to come down there to LA. We didn't know we was going to be going through this tunnel. But the gift he had to give me is on my head. This is the Marty McFly version of his tinfoil cap that he wore in the movie Back to the Future 2. This This is the hat. Basically, it's got the clock on it, to kind of refer to Marty McFly. So it's a little jazzed up. It's an official cap of tinfoil.co. But this is it's got a yin and yang on this. His was pure like this. But this is the Marty McFly.
God damn it, Borg. The Borg have been, every time you start talking about cool shit, the Borg jumps in. For the past 30 seconds, all we've heard is, okay.
Oh,
wow. Borg. Get out of here, Borg. Sorry about that.
So this hat is the Marty McFly version that Rex had before he left Colorado, decided to give to me. Unbeknownst to us both that we'd be walking through the tunnel, filming video, talking about Marty McFly. Now, is that coincidence or what? What is that?
Weird.
So that is really weird. That's almost as weird as 3i Atlas.
I would say so. And
so, here's the other weird thing. Rex and I were out there professionally to talk about weird stuff in videos. And we made our own weird, anomalous video.
That's right. And we've got footage of it. Greg's got some pretty good footage. I have some great footage of it. I used to have it on the channel, but then when I took down all the videos, that was one of them. But I still have it, so I'll re-upload it. So basically, folks, we go. If you missed some of that, because there was a lot of audio interference there when Greg was talking about the really cool stuff. But the hat that he's wearing is called the Marty McFly Special. I gave that to him. I took it down. I didn't know we were going to go into this tunnel, this Back to the Future tunnel, but we did. And then while we're going through the tunnel, I'm saying, you. That's like one of my favorite things to say. And Greg's wondering why the heck I'm saying it, because he's like, that's my middle name. And I had no idea that was his middle name. But then he says, hey, hello. And this light beam goes, pow. And so that was just such an amazing experience. And I mean, what a beautiful, I'm so thankful and grateful for that experience with you, Greg. And I also think we went and we did something when we went to the Jack Parsons did a ritual out there in California long time ago. We went out to the location at nighttime where Jack Parsons did this ritual. And I think we cleared the air a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe we just got ourselves in it, but that was a little spooky.
We went to Devil's Gate Dam. We went to the Devil's Gate Dam.
What's it called again?
The Devil's Gate Dam. That's where we went. Yes. That was a weird place. That was a really weird place. And the other thing was that Rex was losing all of his batteries. All his batteries were being drained. Remember that, Rex? Right. And then when maybe I was soaking up energy to build Halo, I don't know. So but the oddball thing is when we were in the studio being filmed, the crew had a hard time. Can you hear me?
Not now I can, but not when you were talking a minute ago about the Devil's Dam. So you said Devil's Dam and then you broke up. Let's try this one more time. So Devil's Dam, batteries are draining.
So here's the other odd thing. When I was being mic'd up to do the videos for that show, you need to send me the links to that show, Rex. I still can't find them.
Okay.
I've never seen the show. We were on TV, and I've never seen it because I don't watch TV. Anyway, so when they would mic me up, the mics wouldn't work. They had a hard time getting the mic to work on me. And they would give me the mic that Jose was wearing. It worked on Jose, put it on me. It no worky. Rex, I think they took a mic from you and put it on me. They had problems with it.
Yeah.
Static. So there was something electrical going on about me that weekend.
That's right, man. That's right.
It was weird.
It was awesome. I'm so grateful to be your friend, and I think that was an experience that we were meant to have, and I think we're meant to do it again soon. So
we'll do something.
We got it.
You got to come see me and some other mutual friends here in the area.
I absolutely will. I will. And I'm going to, I will bring my night vision and thermal. And everybody's asking if you're okay. They're worried about your cough.
I get coughs in the wintertime. I don't know. I had COVID back a couple weeks ago, but I'm totally clear of that now. I tested negative. But I'm bad to get a cough. It would last all winter.
Well, there's a cough going around. There's a bug going around. So, you said other than the little, you just need some water, folks. You've been talking for 2 freaking hours, so and like get some water. No, I'm good. I got it. Right on, brother. You're awesome, and thank you everybody for being here with us. I really appreciate all of you. I hope you have an amazing evening, amazing holidays. I hope that your Thanksgiving was just fantastic. And Greg, let's do this again soon.
All right, let's do it.
Right on.
I thank everybody for watching Rex's Leak Project. This is where I started in my YouTube trek. Rex has had a lot. He don't realize it, but he's had more impact on my life than he knows. That's partially why I'm living here in the Snowflake area of Arizona.
Man, I hope you like it there then. I really hope you like it there. Oh,
Rex,
Greg.
But you launched this little pathway.
Yeah. I know. That's what I'm saying. You better like it there. I really hope you like it there because I kind of, so it's my fault. Cool.
Just come see me.
I will, Greg. Thank you, brother.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Be the change you want to see. Nanu, nanu.